A company might decide to migrate to the cloud for various reasons. They might have a workload that is archaic sitting in an on-prem data center. They could also have a lot of spend on their management and personnel. Or they also have like compliance and auditing goals that they need to achieve. Some customers want to save money. Some customers want to revamp their infrastructures to be more technologically advanced. Some customers just want basic advice on how to deal with security and compliance. So there's a huge spectrum of reasons why a customer might want to do a cloud migration. For example, moving from a very expensive on-prem workload to the public cloud achieves a lot of those goals in one go, as in they will be able to save money as well as be able to use the latest and greatest technologies offered by the cloud providers. If I were to outline what a typical customer is planning to accomplish with a cloud migration, is be able to be more efficient, compliant, and secure with the infrastructure they have. And efficiency goes hand in hand with a lot of the solutions that they're either working with right now in their current infrastructure, and move it to a place where the amount of time they have to spend and the amount of work they have to do to manage that on an ongoing basis is reduced significantly. Now, that could be in terms of time from their personnel, that could be in terms of time that they have to spend on managing that infrastructure as well. The goals that they're after is a mix of saving money, getting more closer to the services that they need, which might otherwise not be available. To be able to connect all those dots, they need expertise, and that's where we come in. We work very closely with them from day one till they go live in production. So a company, when doing a cloud migration, encounters a bunch of hurdles, right? And that's where we also come in to help them out. For example, one of the top reasons why a hurdle presents itself in a cloud migration is dependencies. You might, if you are moving a workload from one place to the other, you have to carry a lot of the dependencies along with, or you have to manage and untangle a lot of the things. For example, if you have an on-prem workload going to AWS, and that workload is pretty complex, has other on-prem dependencies which might or might not be moving in the migration. Just the project scope of breaking the problem down on when to move, what to move, and how to do it in a completely seamless way with no customer impact is probably the biggest challenge in a cloud migration. Public cloud has come a long way. Azure, GCP, AWS today offer services that compete with each other. They are very economical. They offer a lot of incentives. So a lot of the customers go across those reasons, and they pick the best choice of public cloud that is most suitable for them. One of the considerations that a customer has before choosing the destination of their cloud migration is pick which public cloud provider they want to go to. Oftentimes that choice is driven by the familiarity that they have. Sometimes some customers come in with a lot of strong opinions about services that they want to deal with. And then secondly, it's just resources. Which resources do they need for their workloads? AI/ML workloads, for example, are highly GPU intensive. AI/ML backend services, platform services intensive. They might be looking for a feature that only lives in a certain cloud provider. So I would say familiarity with the cloud provider as well as the platform services they need drive most of the decision. A lot of the cloud migrations demand that we see coming in right now is either moving closer to the AI/ML services, but our customers often have the luxury now to pick and choose which provider, which set of services they want. So we are seeing a lot of movement and choice being made around which cloud provider do they want to migrate to, because they are interested in a specific set of features related to their AI/ML workload. Secondly, it's just constraints on hardware. We know that these AI/ML training workloads are very much GPU sensitive and demanding, and GPUs are a hot commodity right now. And availability of the hardware and the chips for the workloads is driving the choice as well. So if I look at GCP, for example, they might have a certain kind of support for hardware that is not available in Azure or AWS and vice versa. So oftentimes our customers' choice of the target for the cloud migration for their AI ML workload is dependent on that as well. One of the biggest things that's pretty daunting for any business to even think about a cloud migration is how do I deal with the complexity and what happens to my workload and my customers? I think the top concern must be customers, because a migration is potentially an interruption in operations, and it doesn't have to be. So I would say at a high level, the platform simplicity and the platform model and the team and the expertise. DuploCloud helps with cloud migration by working very closely with customers on what their goals are. We have a team of highly competent DevOps engineers who work with the customers on day one, starting building out the plans, assessing their existing workloads. DuploCloud simplifies the challenges dealing with complexity of the cloud, either source or target, if you're moving from on-prem or Azure or GCP to AWS or vice versa. One of the things is to simplify the model and break things down. DuploCloud, with its very simple security and compliance model with tenants, infrastructure, security groups, forces planning to go a certain narrow way to fit the final infrastructure in this model, which actually makes everything more secure and compliant and efficient. I think that's the biggest win of the platform, to present a much simpler model for deployment. And secondly, I would say equally or not larger than that, the expertise that we bring in of getting hundreds of these migrations done already. So we learn from our past, and then we learn from the previous customer experiences, that every new migrations we do is a little bit better than the previous one, because we are all accruing on top of the experiences. So I would say at a high level, the platform simplicity and the platform model and the team and the expertise. If you look at DuploCloud products and services, if you go to a market today looking for a cloud migration solution, you'll get a lot of consulting partners, MSPs, and so on and so forth, right? DuploCloud presents a slightly unique solution, which is we offer a platform which simplifies your deployment strategy, but at the same time, we'll give you all the expertise and support in one package. You get the initial investment of time and money and resources that we will work together with, but also at the same time, you will get bundled as a software platform subscription, that level of expertise on an ongoing basis. So DuploCloud's biggest win is to simplify the model of migrations, but at the same time, having all the expertise at your disposal to make sure that your migration is executed, done on time, but also on an ongoing basis, remain secure, compliant, efficient. The DuploCloud engages with customers to execute their cloud migration end to end. If a customer has a need to understand the scope of what they're migrating, they need highly skilled and educated staff on hand. One of the reasons they would opt for a solution like DuploCloud would be one solution which not just gives them a good model for execution, but also a staff who can come in and help out with that execution as well. So one of the top pain points that a business might face is just understanding of the scope. And to understand the scope of a cloud migration, they need people who understand the complexity, the source and the target of the migration, and how to break apart the project plan. We come in with highly skilled people on our team who engage customers from day one to build out that project plan and give them confidence. At the same time, the way the platform comes in, it provides a really seamless execution model, which allows our team to not just execute on the migration, but also educate the customers to actually take over a lot of the control themselves. So overall, if you look at the highly technical bar that every cloud migration has, we will help fill that bar by lowering the technical complexity by having a DuploCloud platform, but also at the same time, offer our expertise to train up the customer side as well. So the complexity of the overall migration effort gets reduced. One of the stories I can recall of DuploCloud successfully executing a migration is one of our clients were running a large Kubernetes workload on-prem. They also had parts of it running in the public cloud in AWS, and they wanted to move the large Kubernetes workload into the cloud as well, but while maintaining dependencies on their on-prem infrastructure as well. So that untangling of dependencies and planning out the movement of the workload from on-prem to public cloud was a big challenge. More so, on top of that, they wanted to do continuous deployments, which were previously running as like CI/CD runners on-prem. So we had to go deploy a lot of their CI/CD workload in the cloud as well, but at the same time, keeping the connections to on-prem by creating VPN tunnels and all that associated stuff. So overall, that use case was successful, but it needed a lot of planning, a lot of dependency diagramming across on-prem and cloud. So it truly was a hybrid solution at the end. But we were able to make that happen over the course of a usual cloud migration project run by DuploCloud goes through a set of phases, and the actual implementation details of the phases might change based on the project, but the outer frame of the execution frame starts with an assessment where we work very closely with the customer to assess their existing workloads. As a part of that, pre-planning for what their eventual goals are as well. Are they looking for simplification? Are they more looking for a lift and shift? Are they looking for any other goals that they might have in terms of adoption of new technologies and so on? When those goals are set up and we assess their existing workloads really well, we move into what we call this mobilize and migrate model, where we move our engineers in and start drawing out what the execution plans would look like and the cost associated and the timelines. And then once that is done, and it's reviewed across from all stakeholders from the DuploCloud side, and we closely review it with the stakeholders on the customer side, we kick off the migration effort, which is actually the execution work to move resources over and make sure that there's, from a customer impact standpoint, things are really reduced. And then eventually, once the migration stuff is done over a set of environments, we get into this QA and testing model where we really test out the result of the migration well. And then as that progresses, we look for the production environments. So the cloud migration journey is not completed at the point of launch. There's an ongoing tuning and optimization that continues on. It could be utilization metrics, it could be performance metrics, it could be cost metrics. All of those metrics are available in the DuploCloud dashboard in the product as well. But we continue to work really closely with the customers after their launch to make sure that all of those metrics are optimized. These things are self-service, but since we are engaged with the customers on an ongoing basis for support anyway, it gets included in our monthly reviews with the customers to make sure that they're cost optimized and performance optimized at the same time. The way DuploCloud drives cloud migrations is heavily reliant on automation. We'll take a few examples. If you're moving a workload, that workload is not just compute, it's data, and often large amounts of data. Using automation to transfer that data from source to destination is key. And for us to be able to leverage the available tool set at our disposal to move that data around, for example, you might be moving terabytes worth of data from on-prem to AWS. AWS provides a lot of tooling out of the box, but it needs knowledge and integration skills to be able to integrate that into the specific goals for what we are looking for in a particular migration. You might have deployment goals, and our skills to be able to do that, and having done that many times over in the past, is key there for every customer that we deal with. At the same time, deployment automation is key as well. A lot of the times customers come to us with a very manual deployment strategy, and our migration process not just deploys their services, but also makes sure that their CI/CD process is highly automated as well. And that's just a given as part of our service. Automation is probably one of the top things that we have a goal for before we finish a cloud migration project. So at the beginning of every cloud migration, we sit down with the customer and be very clear with what the goals are. And often the cloud migration goals are driven by the most immediate needs. A lot of the customers come to us with they want to adopt the best practices, right? For security and compliance and automation. A lot of the times customers come to us with a hard deadline where they have a SOC 2 audit, for example, in 60 to 90 days, they want to run fast towards. Those are examples which inform us what to prioritize in the onboarding and implementation plan. The first couple of months for us is really working hand in hand with the customers to make sure that their immediate goals are realized. Once their immediate milestones are hit, then we move more into a sustained operations model, which continues to make sure that the remainder tail end of the migrations are done, but then really the order of operations depend on what their immediate business needs are. And it's dictated by what the customers are looking for. The way DuploCloud engages the customers is initially for onboarding, where we have our highly skilled DevOps engineers work hand in hand with the customers to enable the cloud migration and execute it. But at the same time, once you launch and the migration is completed, we also become the extended DevOps team for the customer as well. And that's a part of our basic software subscription model. Our highly skilled team will always be there. We have chat-based support channels with every customer that we have. And we are just a Slack ping away or a Teams ping away, just a phone call away. We are there 24/7 to resolve any issues, any advice, any architecture guidance, any security and compliance audits that might come along the way as well. So I would say the value of the services is not just the initial implementation and getting the migration done, but on an ongoing basis. We are saving the customer money by not going ahead and staffing a large DevOps team. When a customer starts their onboarding on DuploCloud and kick off a cloud migration, they get connected to a number of people internally. We have a customer success team, so a customer success manager is allocated. And then we have at least a couple of DevOps engineers, with one of them being a senior implementation lead, who are basically on point for all technical matters, getting assessments done, architecture reviews done, getting the solutions for the target architecture of the migration defined, and build a milestone-driven plan to get the migration done according to what the customers want, exactly what their immediate goals are. And then once that plan is established, then we get into this high-frequency cadence with the customers to make sure that we stay on top of that plan. And that plan often includes not just us executing, but also training the customers on the DuploCloud platform as well. So the first couple of months is the time where this high-frequency collaboration is happening between the DuploCloud team, project management really actively through the customer success team and the implementation team. And then as we get more closer to the launch date, we get more of the team looped in so that we are monitoring and diagnostic and all that production preparedness setup is completed. And then once the migration is completed and launched, then we move into more of a sustained operations model where the implementation team, the couple of DevOps engineers, hand over some of that work to our sustained operations team, which is a separate team. So overall, if you think of the pipeline, it starts from like a pre-sale, getting the deal closed, but at the same time, CSM and implementation team driving the migration, and then eventually a DevOps team takes over for sustained operations. One of the biggest things that's pretty daunting for any business to even think about a cloud migration is how do I deal with the complexity and what happens to my workload and my customers? I think the top concern must be customers, because a migration is potentially an interruption in operations, and it doesn't have to be. And that's where subject matter expertise comes in. The way I would advise the businesses is that just do an assessment. Just engage a partner like ours who have the tool set, who have the background, the expertise, and have the people who have done it many times over. Just talk to us, get an assessment done of what it would take to do the migration, specifically in the context of your goals around if you are looking for cost savings or looking for security compliance, or you're looking for adoption of new services. We can advise you what the right thing to do is. And maybe the answer is not just lift and shift everything. The answer is lift and move some of the workloads according to what you guys need. So I would say engaging a partner, which is the best fit for you, and get an assessment done and get a project plan setup, and then go from there. DuploCloud's ultimate measure of success for a cloud migration is, did we hit the goal that the customers asked us to hit when we set out for the initial project? And that is very specific to what the customers were looking for and the timelines for what they were looking for. So that getting milestones hit on time is definitely one goal. The other is customer satisfaction in terms of the kind of service they got. Were the customer success team and the implementation team there for all their needs? Were they able to hit all the technical targets around either reducing the complexity of their infrastructure, getting them to meet their scalability targets, getting to meet their financial and cost optimization targets, and so on and so forth. So it really is a continuous check-in with the customers. The first of those check-ins is getting the migration done on time and with quality. And then there's an ongoing series of check-ins that happen in the fashion of NPS scores or quarterly business reviews that our CSM team runs over the period of time. So those metrics inform us for how healthy and what the KPIs should be for us to do a successful migration.